Most photos don't mean anything in the moment that you take it. I started photography back in 2009, which means now I've been spending about 17 years making photographs. And over that time, I've changed camera systems multiple times. I've changed my editing and shooting workflows. I've shot multiple genres, and even just my overall reason for creating has been different, going from personal work to client work to educating other people to making my own art. And I've learned a lot of things along the way. Today I'm going to share with those in this video. I probably share these things in different videos, but I thought it'd be good to just put it all in one video. All the important lessons that I've learned that aren't specifically just about settings or lenses or technical perfection. These are the lessons about making photography fit into my life instead of rearranging my entire life around photography. So when I started photography, and I would say pretty much my entire journey of photography, even until now, I find myself in these periods of researching different types of cameras and different types of camera systems, buying different gear, switching between different cameras because, we think that the next one is going to finally remove all the different limitations that we're facing. What I've learned is that there is no best camera. There's only the camera that fits my life currently in a specific season. You will never find a camera that kind of like checks off every single box. There is always going to be some type of compromise. If you get a camera that's small, maybe it doesn't shoot video. If you have one that does photo and video, maybe it has a specific manual focus quirk that you don't like. Maybe the autofocus is bad. The cameras that have really good lenses, they're probably super big. And some cameras are just way too expensive, and other ones are budget friendly but don't have something that you're looking for. The technically better cameras aren't always the cameras that you're going to actually carry. That's something else I learned too. What I want you to all to remember is to start learning how to not just research YouTube videos and reviews, but start to learn how to trust your needs and how to choose a kit, how to choose a camera and a lens that fits the needs that you have based on the subjects that you want to shoot, the routines that you have, and the way that you see things. Because once you learn how to decide for yourself, you don't need me anymore. I've learned this particular lesson the hard way many times in my photography journey that I just nipped it in the bud. A great photograph is going to present itself when you don't have a camera with you. You don't need to just bring a camera when you have a planned shoot, because most of the opportunities to photograph are the ones that you don't plan for. So the thing that you need to learn is that you need to bring a camera everywhere. And I'm not just talking about your phone. Of course, your phone serves this, but if you're a photographer that carries a camera around, you need to bring a camera with you everywhere. I would say this is single-handedly the most important thing that you can do to improve your photography. It's just bring a camera everywhere. And they get to the point where you're actually not only just bringing it everywhere, but actually taking it out to take a photo, to shoot on the things that just catch your eye. When you have more time with the camera, it changes your entire perspective of when you're out. You start to notice different things, different lighting, different color, a specific coincidence between somebody's clothing and a wall that they're standing next to. You're going to start to see these things, and it kind of changes the entire way that you appreciate life. Carrying a camera can turn a simple errand, walking your dog, a commute, or even just family time or personal time on your own into opportunities to practice your craft. Not just practice the skill, but to put your craft into practice. And if you're like me, you're a photographer that wants to use this craft as an outlet to be creative every single day, even if you have a super busy life with a family, with a job. Having your camera with you gives you that excuse to practice at a moment's notice. You don't need to photograph everything. You just need to have the option to be able to photograph when something catches your eye in the way that you want to, in the way that you chose to, instead of just settling for your phone. Of course, you could pick your phone up, but again, having something small or having something that you just wear on your shoulder, around your neck, and then you just get used to carrying every single day is going to improve everything, every aspect about your life as a photographer. I can guarantee that. So before we continue on to the next lessons, I did want to thank today's video sponsor, Squarespace. So I've actually been using Squarespace for over 10 years now. Their templates and easy to use drag and drop interface make it really simple to create and maintain a professional looking website that adapts to any device without any coding experience necessary. My Squarespace website was an essential part of how I built my photography business. It allowed me to showcase my portfolio, share recent work on my blog, and also receive inquiries from potential clients through my contact form. If you're one of those photographers relying just on your Instagram profile as the sole place to share your work and build your photography business, I would really consider making a website on Squarespace. You can visit squarespace.com/Reggie Ballesteros to start a 14-day free trial and get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. So when I first started photography, I wasn't even married yet. And then I got married, and then we got a dog. And then after we had a dog and, working full-time jobs, we also had one kid. And then another kid. And then I quit my job. And then I had a full-time job again. There was always something that was just kind of like piling onto my life. And I started to feel like I didn't have enough time to shoot. I didn't have enough time to edit. I didn't have enough time to plan a proper photo walk or shoot for myself. And this leads me to the lesson that I learned, that we need to lower the friction between us and making photos. And this is going to change for different people. But, for me, I realized that I don't need as much time as I thought. And when I started making fewer barriers between noticing and actually making the photo, the opportunities and the photographs, they kind of just came more naturally. I always had my camera with me, charge, an extra battery, a USB-C cable just to charge it just in case. A lot of my cameras now actually have internal memory so that even if I forget my SD card, I'm not left to not be able to take a photo. I have a smaller kit. I use JPEGs. I use JPEG film simulation recipes so that I have a simpler workflow, and it reduces the complexity from taking the photo out to putting it into practice, printing it, sharing it on Instagram, that kind of thing. You really want to make it easy to take one photograph instead of waiting for a perfect free afternoon or a couple hours after you shoot to be able to process everything. So you got to reduce the friction, and there's a lot of tricks to do that. You just got to think about what you're willing to do. Before, I used to scroll Instagram and I see people in Japan. I see people out in New York City, and it's easy for those people to make really cool photographs. And I visited some of these places like New York and Chicago and Seattle, and living near San Francisco makes it super easy. But once I started having kids, I didn't really have the opportunity to go venture out every week, or some people are venturing out every single day to photograph in these cool places. What I learned is that I needed to notice what was already around me instead of feeling like I had to travel somewhere to make interesting photographs. Because interesting photographs don't always require an interesting subject or a place. If you pay attention and you stick on something long enough, you can find interesting light, shadows, color, texture in the smallest of places. Ordinary environments can actually be something completely different if you actually just kind of look at it for a little bit longer, look a little bit closer at the details. You may not need to go somewhere else new. You just have to learn how to be more observant where you already are. And I hope this empowers you all, especially the people who feel like they're super busy, get to cool places. Being able to just notice around you is something that once I learned it, it made photography extremely fun no matter where I was. With the ease of the internet, social media, Instagram, and being, lowering the barrier to sharing a photo and getting instant feedback, it puts a lot of pressure. It puts a lot of pressure on us. It puts a lot of pressure on us determining our worth of a photograph based on how many likes it gets, how many people react to it, if it leads to another job or something like that. And one way to kind of change your perspective on this is to treat every photograph as a way to practice seeing instead of feeling like it's supposed to be worth a specific amount or worth something. Because not every image needs to be successful. Not every image needs to be shared. Not every image even needs to be kept. If you're like that person who wants to just delete them all. Every frame that you take, every frame that you compose, take, and you edit and practice and things like that, it helps you understand what catches your attention. And those imperfect photographs, they train your instincts to try to correct it next time, or to get closer to what you envision, or to get the timing a little bit better, the composition a little bit better, to notice that thing a little bit quicker than the last time. I think the goal is not to make a great photograph every single day or every single time you go out. The goal is really to just keep practicing how to see, and keep practicing this craft. Because when you make that your goal, then generally your goal is actually to increase your luck. Because luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And if you keep having this practice, you keep continually preparing, when that opportunity shows up, you're going to be ready. And you're not going to regret always having the camera, always noticing these things, and always treating it with less pressure and more of experimental learning, and just, being curious about what it will look like. Recently, I have been going down this road about creating art for myself, self-expression, being able to explore myself and how I want to communicate visually to the world through my photographs. And I think one thing I was struggling with before was trying to figure out what was the meaning behind all the work that I was making. What's the deeper connection to everything? And I think we feel this because a lot of the great artists had a story to tell, or something that their photographs meant. And I learned that meaning comes later. If anything, the photos actually don't mean anything. Most photos don't mean anything in the moment that you take it. And let me explain. When you start photographing things, it's basically genuinely stuff that interests you. Sure, we can probably explain it in the moment, but a lot of the times we can't really explain why. You can't fully explain everything. And even when you're able to explain it, you can't really force that meaning into the image after the fact, or predict how someone else many years from now is going to interpret it. And I think that's because your intent really doesn't matter in the way that you think it does. But your intent does control, specifically why you took the photo, right? But it does not control what the photograph will mean to somebody else who looks at it. What it means is that your motivation and your emotions behind what made the photograph are real, but they are actually completely separate from how someone else may experience the work that you made. They may, by happenstance, get the feeling that you're trying to feel in that moment, and some other people may get some completely different story out of it and enjoy the photo, but it's something that you didn't mean at all. They can interpret it in the complete opposite way. And ultimately, the meaning is created from the relationship of the photograph and the viewer, not necessarily you with the photograph. It's a hard lesson to learn, and I'm still trying to grasp this one. As an educator, I want to be able to let the meanings that I have get conveyed correctly, but exploring this new world as an artist, I'm starting to find joy in the fact that the meaning that someone gleans is completely different than what I intended, and that's totally okay, right? Our photos really mean nothing at the time that they're taken. They get their meaning when they're viewed by someone else, and that meaning belongs completely to that person. Honestly, that makes photography pretty dang amazing. This video is a little bit different. I'm not really trying to make it as technical, but something a little bit more, philosophical about photography. I hope at least one of these ideas help you photograph more often, help you trust your process, or maybe relieve a little bit of pressure behind the stuff that you've been making these days. If this was helpful, please let me know in the comments. And if there's a lesson that you've learned along your photography journey, share it down below so that we all can hear it.